What is it really like to own a brand new travel trailer RV in 2025? I'm going to walk through this with you here. I bought this RV just about a year ago. I have traveled all over the United States with it over the past year. And now I'm going to go through in this video everything that has gone wrong with it that I've either had to fix or am going to fix today or will fix in the future with you guys, so you can see kind of what to expect when going into owning a brand new RV here in 2025 going into 2026. So come on, let's go. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Myles with Firmly Unbound, and I purchased this travel trailer in December of 2024. It was a brand new 2025. It actually was built in November of 2024. So when I bought it, it had been built just a month prior to me purchasing it. It had just shown up on a lot, so it was pretty much brand spanking new at that point. And then from there, obviously it hasn't quite been a year up to this point, but I don't think I'm gonna get another chance to take this travel trailer out this year. But I did total up all the mileage that I put on this travel trailer over the last year, and it was right at about 10,000 miles. Literally drove this thing from coast to coast across the US. And I lived out of this thing for multiple months out of the year, especially as my wife and I took our honeymoon in this travel trailer. Since she is a teacher and had the summer off, we got to take this as our means for our honeymoon, traveling across the US. And then I also traveled all over the place filming RVs for you guys across the US as well. So got a lot of use out of this. I would definitely say that I use this far more than the average RV owner uses their RV within a calendar year, aside from anybody that full times in an RV. So right now this thing is fully closed up. We're gonna get it opened up, but I wanna let you know who sponsored this video today. It is Bluetti. They sent me their Apex 300 power station, and I've never used an electric power station before. I'm very used to just using like a gas generator if I have to power something like this. But I really like this power station because it has a 30 amp and a 50 amp plug. So we're gonna put it to the test today. We're gonna get everything powered up on the RV today with that power station and see how it performs. This here is the Apex 300 from Bluetti, and it is a pretty nice looking unit, and this is something that I feel like, based on the specs and what it has to offer, is actually going to be a unit that is going to be capable of running in RV for a lot of people in a lot of different instances, especially with its ability to expand on what we're seeing here already. But we're going to put that to the test today and see how that really goes. So first of all, you can just see how it looks here, and we'll get this turned on. We'll get it turned on and then plugged into the RV, and then kind of see where we're at and go through some specs as we first of all just test out and make sure it's going to power the RV. But you can see here I have it charged to 100%, and we're going to get it plugged in. We have it plugged in, and now we're going to step inside, and I'm going to go turn the air conditioning on. And for purposes of this test, although it's not super hot out today, I am going to make sure that this AC runs the entire time, because that is what is the most important thing for me in terms of, you know, a generator's capability. Obviously being able to keep the batteries charged is important as well, but we don't have to slide out yet. So let me just see if this AC is going to fire on for us. Okay, there we go. We have the AC running. You can see the output there. It's about right about 1600 watts is about where it peaked at, settling at about 1500 watts. I didn't catch it when the AC first fired on exactly what it peaked at there, but you can see it's running now at about 1500 watts with that single AC, and then it's showing it's up to 3,840 watts there on the total output, with a total of 2,764.8 watt hours on this little power station. So, but right away, the AC is on and running, and we're gonna see now, you know, as I work through this project, how it goes and how that, you know, battery starts to deplenish as we're out here, because that's the most interesting thing to me, I would think, is how long can this thing run as it comes. But keep in mind, you can also add solar panels and additional power stations to this unit to increase the amount of time that it will last and also increase your power output. All right, let's talk some specs real quick. First of all, this unit weighs 84 pounds. It's not super light, but it's also not super heavy. I can easily load this in and out of my truck by myself. It actually weighs less than my 4,500 watt gas generator that I often carry around with me and bring with my RV, so it's lighter than that, so manageable for one person. It's also very quiet for a power source compared to a gas or diesel generator, so that's another thing, or a propane generator. So that's another thing there where you get that very quiet power source. Has 120 volt and 240 volt power output simultaneously in one unit, which is very nice. We have our 420 amp just regular outlets here along the front, 30 amp and 50 amp plugs along the side, and then we have this hub one here that is going to have all of your different DC ports. So you have your 12 volt plug, your Anderson plug, and USB type C and type A plugs here all on this hub one unit that plugs into the side of your generator there and has a nice clip on there for the handle. And with all of this here, you're looking at 2,764.8 watt hours of battery capacity and then 3,840 watts of power output. So it's not just for charging your phones and laptops. It can run an entire RV, including up to a single AC unit on the RV. It just might not be able to power it for that long. And then you can add various different batteries onto this if you want to expand upon the capacity, and you can also plug solar panels into this as well to charge it, and you can get continuous power input into the unit to keep it charged through solar panels. So really flexible system there. Again, you can add to it if you want to get more power output to run more components for a longer duration of time. But I think this is going to be a great thing whether you're going to a tailgate and just need a power solution for something like that, or if you are trying to run different components on your RV for periods of time. Plus, all right, so we got the Apex 300 powering everything in the RV. We're good to go. So real quick before we hop inside, on the outside, there's just a couple things that went wrong here. Not a whole lot to talk about. There's a couple things that I already addressed, or really like one main thing that I already addressed. Some other things that I'm still going to address in the future because I am in a covered storage here. But let me point these out real quick. First and foremost, getting up on the roof. These seals here are the most important thing that you probably need to be checking on the exterior of your RV, because there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen. And some of these things will happen like every time you move the RV. So for instance, as I walk around here, you can see like where this solar port is. You can see like there's a little bit of potential like cracking starting to form right there. Don't see any bubbles in anything, but you can see some of the, like those aren't, like that's a little bit of a bubble that's popped right there. Walk around here, let's see what else is going on around the vent here. A couple times I've came up here and just kind of popped and pushed some of these bubbles in. But almost every time I move the RV, I get new bubbles that pop up around some of this sealant area here. And then I can even see right there, look at that. That is a gap right there that I need to come fill in. The last time I was up here, that gap was not there, and now it is. So that probably happened the last time I towed the RV. I definitely need to come up here and reseal that, because this is how you get leaks in your RV. It is things like that occurring that is what is allowing the roof to leak in your RV. It's not usually really the roof, it's usually some of the seams here. And just kind of looking at everything, evaluating everything. I don't know what that black material is there. I don't know if that's like the seal on the inside of that area there, but those areas like that definitely need to be addressed. Now, it's not a huge concern for me right now because I am in this covered area, but if I was not in covered area, that would be an urgent thing to take care of with something like that. And these are things that you should be checking from day one on your RV. Here on the front, you can see I have this a Turnabond tape right here. This is covering a hole that was in the sealant right here. So there was this little bubble that eventually turned into a hole on the sealant, and that was actually there from the first time that I towed this home from Colorado. So within the first month of me owning it, I had to address that. But again, me getting up on my roof often and checking these things, I've never had a roof leak in this RV. And it's because I get up here and I check this regularly. I also need to get up here and scrub all this off and just clean everything, because the cleaner things are, the more easy you can identify different things that could potentially be going wrong. So I look over here too, just check all the different seals and seams along these sides. Again, cleaning all this will greatly help with just being able to see what's going on. And while we're up here, I can also talk about the seals around the windows. So you can see here on the slide out, I haven't addressed these seals, or like their silicone seals around the windows here. Definitely want to come through and clean those, make sure those are all good. And then all your seals along your slide out boxes here, you do want to do some sort of, you know, kind of like a lubricant style cleaning on those so that they stay moisturized and don't start cracking. That's also something I'm not going to do today, but being a year into ownership, that is definitely something that I am going to address before I take this RV out the next time I take it out. And anywhere where there are silicone seams, you want to be checking those spaces. So you can see like here all the way around these areas. Unfortunately for me with this Alliance product, it has Azdel composite sidewalls as well as an, I don't know if it's Azdel, but it's a composite flooring. So I'm not as worried with like water intrusion, but an area right here that I noticed the last time I had my camper out, right here, this part in the slide out is starting to, you know, separate right there, and that silicone seam is definitely fractured. So that's another area I'm aware of that I'm going to address. And then you can even see right here how all these seams right there are cracking. That's something that I am definitely going to get addressed and fixed before I take this out on its next trip, but that's not something that I'm going to be handling and taking care of today. The next thing that happened was a little odd. This happened back when I was in Arizona in around May or June, I believe, and it hasn't happened since, but somehow with how I was connecting my hose into this area, which by the way, you can see that mesh material right there. I don't know if the camera will focus on that. It's a little bit gunked up now, so I do want to take that out and clean that. That's another thing I'm noticing here. Somehow the way I was attaching my hose into this, it caused the connection back behind here in the water line to come undone. So when I turned the water on, it started spraying water out of this area, and water was pooling up and then flooding out of this area. And that was something where I had to take this whole panel off, get back behind there and re-secure that fitting on. And I don't know exactly what I was doing that caused that to happen, but I do know when I started connecting my hose to the source, I just really was mindful to make sure that everything here was moving in a way where it didn't seem like it was, you know, twisting things back behind this component, and I haven't had that issue since. And other than that, I mean, that is pretty much it on the outside. I haven't had any issues on the outside. Nothing has gone wrong. Always make sure to put the awning in whenever it's windy or whenever I'm not at the RV. Haven't had any issues with the pass-through storage. I do know the bearings need to be repacked. If I remember correct, that's something that should be done about every year or annually, especially with the kind of use I put on the RV. So again, not a project I'm taking on today, but that is something that is going to need to be done. And it might be one of the only things that I take this RV to a dealership to get done, although I'm also kind of intrigued with the idea of doing it myself. I perfectly understand not always feeling completely comfortable to take your RV back to a dealership to get some service work done. You'll see some of the stuff I'm going to work on today. I would be perfectly just to take it back to the dealership to get it done, and there's no problem in doing that. But truthfully, I don't necessarily trust the service department at a dealership to do things the way that I'll do them. So I just know if I want it to get done right, I'm going to do it myself. And that's just, I'm that way with a lot of different things, not just the RV. But shoot, I get scared to take my truck in to get the oil changed sometimes because I don't know if they'll put the right oil in. I know if I do it, I at least can blame myself if something goes wrong versus having to blame someone else for something going wrong. And I can live with blaming myself, but it's really tough for me to stomach, you know, someone else doing something wrong to my property that I paid for. So I just ultimately handle a lot of things on my own. So I just know that it gets done the way that I want it done. Now, as we step inside, this is where things get a little bit more interesting. And I just realized the AC, I forgot I turned it off for a second. Let me come back and turn it on. It's getting a little toasty in here. There we go. Still got power to the AC from that Apex 300 unit. First of all, starting on this whole area here, there's a couple things that have happened. One, almost all of your lower end RVs and even some of your higher end stuff, or something that someone might consider higher end, will have some sort of a stick-on backsplash. So this here is just a stuck-on material, and around the window here it is bubbling. So I don't know if you'll be able to see that bubbling there, but it is bubbling off the sides of that window frame, and occasionally I'll come and stick it back on. Now, best case scenario, I just chalk that up to the heat that maybe this back wall experienced while out camping. The same thing kind of happened up through this area, right through here as well. and all down through here. Worst case scenario is that maybe could have been caused by water leaking in around the window and moisture getting back behind this area that is causing that adhesive to loosen up. And I'm not sure which of those it is. And aside from just, you know, ripping it all out or taking the window off, it just kind of is what it is. And I'm not going to do anything about it. You know, it's just going to be bubbled up like that, and it just is what it is. That's kind of something I've just chosen to live with. And I think as an RV owner, there's certain times you're just going to have to be able to live with things like that. Like if you can't live with something like that, you either need to save up money and buy a very expensive RV, like I'm talking very, very expensive RV, or you just need to understand that that's going to be the reality of some of the little minor things that you're just going to have to deal with because of the nature of how these things are built to be very lightweight. So there's that. And then other things in this area, another thing that happened one of the times we were traveling, where's it at? Somewhere down in here in this drawer. A couple things happened, actually, I forgot. So this is why staples on drawer construction suck. You can see here, this drawer that I have packed full of stuff is completely coming undone right here. I do have nails and some wood glue today to fix some things like this. So you can see right there though how those staples are coming undone, and this is partially probably in the nature of how I loaded things into this drawer. This is where you got to just be so mindful of how you're loading stuff. I probably had things a little bit too tightly packed in here. And in addition to that, I had another thing that went wrong. We also have a decent amount of like, yeah, I think that's like some sawdust in here, which is common. You're gonna see that in RVs. I don't know if that's sawdust for sure, or if that's something else. Because usually I actually don't see that here in this drawer, so I'm not sure what that might have been from. But I'm trying to find, okay, here it is. So I was trying to find this. This looks like it was, how was this screwed on here? Okay, it was screwed underneath. So this is the magnet latch for the drawer here, and it was screwed on underneath just like this, and this just came undone while going down the road. So not a big deal or anything like that, but I do have to re-secure that back up into this space. Sometimes the screw retention on different things in these RVs isn't the best, but also part of the problem is the other screw is actually up in this area right there. So this other screw is still there, and basically the screw is just not wide enough to not slip through that area, which is part of what allowed that to fail. So a couple different issues there to address with this drawer in particular. Not super tough though. And again, I guess I'm just going to explain what I'm going to do to fix these, because I don't want to make the whole video of, you know, showing what I'm doing. But I basically have some nails and some wood glue, and I'm going to be using those to secure that back together and see how that holds. And the reason why I'm using the wood glue is because earlier in the year, I had this whole thing happen here, where this entire panel here next to the refrigerator, this is a Luan panel here, which a lot of RVs will have. In fact, even a lot of like higher end RVs will have Luan panels in there. You can see they're just these really thin, maybe like a 1/8 of an inch thick little Luan panels that are around different areas of the RV to keep it lightweight. And then you have your wood studs back behind here, and these things just do not seem to have a great retention to them. So I originally, when it was first bought, it had all these staples that were holding all this in place, and those staples failed pretty quick. In fact, the first place that this failed was in the bedroom back here. So if I get the light on over here, this area over here on one of the initial trips that I went on all kind of fell out through this area. Now the whole panel itself didn't fall off, but there was like this sagging gap right here where this all came undone. So with this one, I did just take these little nails that you should be able to see right there and just nailed it back up. And I've probably driven this thing like 6,000 miles since then, and it's never came undone again. So I thought that would be the solution, to just take a nail like that and that would solve the problem. But then I tried that with this panel right here. You can see I added nails all along this space and then all down through here that are now sticking out. And that's because the last time I drove this down the road, those nails did not hold this in place, and the whole thing popped right back out as it was before. And I need to now, I think the only solution I can think of is taking, you know, something like a wood glue and gluing back behind here, adhering that on with a glue first, and then nailing those in, because I really don't know another solution. But you can see that even extends down to underneath here, which this is going to be really annoying to get to and deal with, because this sofa is actually screwed into the floor. So if I want to move this out of the way, I have to unscrew it from the floor, which honestly to me just does not even sound worthwhile or worth it to me. So I don't even know if I'll ever fix that. I might just leave it as it is. Not sure. But that being said, I will fix the rest of this all the way up through here. No issues with the refrigerator or any of the appliances. Stove still works great. Microwave works just fine. Vent fan works fine. Refrigerator works fine. All that stuff is good. All the outlets are good. Haven't had any issues with any of that stuff. No electrical issues with anything, no flooring issues with anything. I did have a scare early on when I was loading up my RV here at this storage unit. Actually, you can see all that scraping there to the metal underneath the slide out. That was because there is a lot of gravel here at my storage facility, and I accidentally brought some rocks in here with my shoes, and one of them got stuck underneath the slide out. I went to move the slide out in, and I got extremely lucky that it got caught right here and didn't get caught somewhere out here and scratched up the floor. So it did do some crunching and whatnot, but we were able to get that out. I did just notice though, I do have this slight little tear there in the floor that I just recognized, and I don't know when or what caused that. But that's again one of those things that I'm probably just not gonna be able to do anything about. As we keep going back this way now, again, no issues with anything on the windows, the table, all this stuff was perfectly fine over the last year. And then we come back this way. This is a very common occurrence with RVs, and there's various different ways that they install doors on these RVs. And mine here, if I can get it over, there we go. Mine here, you can see, oh my goodness, there we go. You can see there the attachment for where that is supposed to be is all the way back here. Let me get it up. There it is. You can see how this one is attached right there. And you can see the bracket piece next to it, which is where this other one is supposed to be. Now this is going to require me getting some sort of wrench on that screw there, so I can essentially screw that back into that bracket, but I'm gonna have to have a pretty small one that can get up onto this bolt and twist that back up into that space. So kind of an annoying system that they're using here for securing that door. My initial thought is maybe they were banking on this being a system where that's not supposed to happen, because the fact that it did happen now and how difficult that's gonna be and how annoying that's gonna be to twist back on there, it's really not going to be fun. You have to hold it up so that it's applying pressure up into there. And of course, I just realized I forgot to bring tools for this project because I completely forgot about this one. So I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. Yeah, even when I just try to get my finger up in there, the force from my finger alone, it's such a small little gap in there. That's just going to be annoying to fix. That is going to be annoying. But that's something I'm probably not going to address today because it's not an urgent issue, but that is something that I will need to get taken care of. And I don't think that was even any fault of my own. Every time that I've traveled, no, maybe except for one. There was one time we forgot to latch this door, so I'll put the blame on myself that it was probably a lack of, latching the door that caused that. I'll take the blame there. I do try to put the blame on myself as many times as I can, but this is one of the things where I cannot place the blame on myself because this one is pretty wild. Same thing with a lot of other different trim pieces around the RV. To secure this in, they were just using these tiny, look at that, these tiny, tiny little nails. I don't even know if I can get the camera to focus on that. It is so small. But that is what is securing this whole piece in. And so as we kind of pull this back, you can see all these tiny little nails here that were supposed to hold that in place, and they did not do that. So this whole wall panel, or this, kind of trim piece there on the sides of the wall, is all coming undone. And this is where, I thought the nail trick would work, where I had these little bit thicker nails here, and in nailing these in, they did not do anything. I mean, they pull right back out. So the retention on these is just not great whatsoever. So this is another one of those areas where I need to use this wood adhesive to stick it to the spot first, get that to adhere, and then nail it in to hopefully get more of a permanent hold. And then you can see even here too, like part of this wall panel, that'll get kind of held in by this piece here, but this whole thing obviously is coming off. And it's a little bit surprising because if I go to the rest of them in the RV, I mean, I can pull on this pretty well and it's pretty solid. Same with this here too. I mean, I'd have to like be hanging from that for that to come undone. I'm pulling on that pretty hard. But for some reason, this one single one right here just popped off, and then even using nails again to try to re-secure it, they just did not want to hold. So kind of interesting there. But everything else in here was good for the most part. Sink, no problems. Toilet, no problems at all. Shower, no problems at all. The only thing that I still need to address on the shower is I did have a little bit of a leak coming from the corner of the shower here that was coming out of the base right there. Now, temporary short-term solution that I had for that before I got some silicone to seal it up and fix it permanently is to just stuff like a washcloth or a towel down in there when I went to take a shower that would just collect any of the water so that I did not have to worry about it spilling out and getting onto the floor like it did the first initial time when I noticed that leak, which was the first time we took a shower in it. And that goes to talk about how you need to be aware when you use your RV, especially when you're using things with water and stuff of that nature. You have to be a little bit mindful of your surroundings and the equipment that you're using. So the first time that Megan and I took a shower, it was actually Megan that took the first shower. I came in here while she was showering and just made sure everything looked good, made sure that nothing was leaking, everything was fine. And then it was actually when she got out of the shower and closed the shower curtain, which the shower curtain has its own kind of little squeegee system that sends all the water down through here to get it out. That was when I noticed all of the water kind of pulling up and draining out of this area right here onto the floor. And I was mindful of that and I was able to catch it before it became an issue. So the more you can be mindful of those things and just be aware of that type of stuff occurring with your RV, the better experience you can have and the more often you can catch those things before they do become a serious issue that you have to take care of. So that was one thing that we had to deal with there, but is no longer an issue. And then back into the bedroom, really no issues back here either. It was just this one spot right there that I had to fix, and everything else is fine. Again, all the outlets still work fine, USB ports all still work fine, nothing else broke in any of these areas, and it was all good. AC works great, still working just fine, no issues with that either, and that was it. So those are all the different things that have broken in my RV in the year that I've owned it. I'm very curious your thoughts on what you think about just kind of this experience with the amount of things now that you have seen that broke on my RV, and kind of what your thoughts are around that. Do you feel like, because for me, this feels like a fairly reasonable amount of damages that I expected to occur in the first year of owning an RV. Being around them the amount that I am, I really try to keep very level expectations with RV ownership. And I think the most surprising thing was like that door panel coming off. So that piece right there, that whole piece coming off was kind of surprising to me because it's just so in your face. And then this one here too, just again because it's so in your face. But they're not hard fixes. They're very simple. It's certainly not something I would feel that you need to take the RV back into the dealership to address. They're very simple to address yourself. And just for the sake of not wanting to make the video too long, I'm not going to show how I fix those, but I am going to fix those before I leave my camper today. But I feel like over the first year of ownership, things went exactly how I would have expected them for the most part with my RV, and actually even a little bit better. The way that people talk about RVs and how much they talk about how RV quality is just horrible online, every time I took my RV out and nothing went wrong, it was like, dang, this is great, this is fantastic. And that was mostly my experience throughout the course of the last year, was that a lot of things just didn't go wrong when I thought they would, and there were just these small few things here and there, and then everything else is kind of just the regular upkeep and maintenance that you have to do on an RV. It's not even that anything broke or went wrong, it's just that things like the silicone and the seams on the roof and stuff like that outside, that's all just part of regular RV maintenance. So that's something to be mindful of when you go into owning an RV. You can always have the dealership take care of those things if you want, or you can do it yourself. There are some brands out there like Brinkley, for instance, that has a automotive seal package that they're doing where they actually don't have silicone seams on a lot of different areas on the RV because they're using more products from the company that makes the Turnabond tape, and then they're using like butyl tape and different things like that to create a different type of seal that doesn't require silicone. So that can minimize the amount of maintenance that you have to do, which is awesome, but the vast majority of RVs still use silicone around a lot of the areas on the RV, and that is something that you have to do for maintenance and upkeep. But that's pretty much it. That's the 1 year update on my RV. Curious your thoughts on what you think about, if this is something you would expect in an RV, or if it's kind of, eye-opening to you to see the different things that happen throughout a year's worth of use in a travel trailer RV like this. And for instance, if you don't know, my travel trailer costs about $35,000 or so, give or take. So that's kind of the price range we're looking at here. But that's all I got for y'all. I'm going to take care of some of these issues today, and then we'll take care of the rest before I take this RV out again on another trip. But that probably won't be until 2026, and likely with a baby at that point, since Megan, my wife, is due to have our baby around January to February. So really looking forward to that. That's all I got for y'all, though. Until next time, live firmly on bound.